Good morning, everyone. Priority. What's priority for you? When you think about it, what is priority in your life? The gospel unfolds what should be priority. And it's a good question for us to raise and to ask. Before we get into that, let's do a quick review. Remember, these last couple of weeks, we heard two different parables. One was the wise and foolish virgins who were looking at being there. The whole purpose was for them to light the way for the bridegroom. And we talked about how we're not called to be nice. That is to say, we defined nice as doing whatever you need to do to bring peace by an irrational way. Okay, we're not called to be nice. In fact, we're called to know what God has placed in our heart to talk about and to be brave and talk about it. That flowed right into the next week, which was our parable of the talents. And the whole point there was fear. I have something to give, but I'm afraid to give it. I have something to say, but I'm afraid to say it. To my spouse, to my children, to my grandchildren, to my grandparents, to my parents, to my friends, to my coworkers. Not called to be nice, called to be courageous. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is turning to the Lord and say, give me the strength to do what I know you're calling me to do, even though I'm afraid to do it. I fear to do it. And God gives us that grace. And even in the midst of the cloud of fear, we step forward and we do what we need to do, which very often is just to talk to somebody. And there's the challenge. And really, there's the opportunity for communion. When you open yourself, you take that step of courage and you share what is sincerely is on your heart. So we have that foundation here as we celebrate Christ the King. And when in celebrating Christ the King this year, we have Matthew 25, and he's unfolding what things will be like in the end. And he's making it very clear what is priority. And really, it's not so much what is priority in a sense of like a thing or a particular list. I bet you have a list in some regard. I know I have a list. Things I got to do, right? Got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. What's priority? Well, maybe it's not what is priority as much as it is who is priority. See, priority is people. The people in your life. They are priority. That's fundamental in our vocation. I can't read this gospel and not think of a modern pop song that it just comes to mind. I can't help it. My child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way. There were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to talk while I was away. And he was talking before I knew it, and as he grew, he said, I'm going to be like you, Dad. You know I'm going to be like you. It's Harry Chapin, Cats in the Cradle. The whole point of the song is he gets to the end and he never prioritizes. He never puts his children first or the people in his life first, and life just has slipped away. And what's it going to be like when you and I stand before our Lord? A couple weeks ago, there was a 12-day period where Father Tony and I did 8 funerals in 12 days. And it's the kind of thing that makes you think, because we're all going to be there someday. And what is really important? John Saplinski, our seminarian, is home, and we're blessed to have him back. I'm not quite sure what his apostolate was his first year at Mount St. Mary's. We went to the same seminary, or he's going to the same seminary in which I graduated from. And my first year there was, I traveled down to Washington, D.C., and I assisted Mother Teresa's sisters in taking care of, it was essentially an AIDS hospice. These were men who had same-sex attraction, who had acquired AIDS, and who had been rejected from their families, and no one really was taking care of them. And the invitation from the sisters was to go and to do everything that they needed done. Very often they couldn't bathe themselves, they couldn't feed themselves, and so we fed them. We bathed them. We clothed them. And you look into the eyes of these people who have been deeply rejected by everyone who has loved them or is supposed to love them. And this gospel makes sense. And you realize what's important. This human being that's in my life. And you care for them. And you are there for them. And that in the last moments of their life, they have an understanding that God is a loving God. And God is with them. And then they die. This week I had a privilege of being invited into a home. These days I have to be invited. Someone who has ALS, and it's a difficult way to go. And in part just because I knew the person and there was a friendship, but as I came in, not because of I'm holy or Father Tony, not because we're holy, but it's because we're ordained and we carry the indelible mark that we bring Christ, and Christ visits the home. And as I held her face in my hands, she began to weep. Because Christ came to her and said, I'm here. And you can do that too. You can bring Christ to the people in your life, okay? Not into the list of the things that you have to do or whatever, but to the people. The people you can bring Christ to. By your touch, by your eyes, and connecting with theirs, with the words that you speak to them, by the embrace that you offer them. See, because that's we're going to be judged. The priority is people. And there's the invitation.